This is the Samsung QN900D Neo QLED, a TV with an insane 8K resolution. This model is their largest in the lineup at an enormous 85 inches. Many of you already think 8K doesn't make sense. Why would you buy it? And I get it. I was one of you, but after using this TV, there's a good reason why you'd want an 8K TV. You might be surprised. Let's look deeper to find out if the Samsung QN900D Neo QLED is or isn't for you. This is Tech Today. The Samsung QN900D Neo QLED has an infinity air design, which is evident from its shockingly thin bezels, overall thin frame, and sleek design. It makes it seem like the screen is just floating there, which adds to its premium look. While it is thin, I'm glad it's not as thin as some other TVs that are as thin as a typical pen. Thinness can be cool, but that can be an anxious experience unboxing it and setting it up because you're afraid of snapping the screen. The QN900D doesn't feel like that. It feels sturdy and durable. Part of that slim look and thinness comes from the One Connect box, which holds the ports. This is a convenient way to put what is essentially the brain into a box that is easily hidden in your media console, alongside it, or even on it. This also helps keep the heat and thickness away from the display and frame, and avoid having a ton of cables running to your TV, resulting in a much cleaner look. On the One Connect box, you can find 4 HDMI 2.1 ports. All 4 have low latency support, variable refresh rate, and support for 4K 240 frames per second or 8K 60 Hz, so they're perfect for gaming. I honestly have a hard time finding something to play that can even hit that high of a frame rate, so there's a lot of headroom for the future. One port has eARC support for audio, including Dolby Atmos, which works great for most modern home theater audio systems. I wish I had Samsung soundbars to check out and show off in this video since they integrate with the TV's Q Symphony support, but maybe next time. The speakers are surprisingly decent for a TV. Alongside the back, you'll find 4 woofers on each side to provide some of the lower frequencies and a total of 90 watts of power to create a 6.2.4 channel sound profile. This is an immersive sample to get an idea of how they sound. It sounds best if you're wearing headphones or earbuds in both ears. Of course, you'll want to supplement this massive TV with a nice sound system, so don't skip out on your audio setup or you'll miss out on getting the best experience. Plus, the built-in speakers won't create a noticeable 6.2.4 sound, but they are still better than average. You also have an optical port for audio, and an old-school coax port, a USB-A port, and an Ethernet port, which can help with updates and streaming quality. Wi-Fi 6E support is also available, which is usually sufficient, but less reliable than Ethernet. Finally, Bluetooth 5.2 support is available. The One Connect box differs from the norm and can be an adjustment if you're not used to it, like remembering to point the remote at the box instead of the TV. But overall, I like the clean look. Speaking of the remote, you have a relatively small remote with a mic to interact with the assistant and a neat solar panel to keep it charged. I like that a lot. I do wish it was part of the Smartthings network so you could use the Smartthings Find feature to locate it and chime it because, you know, it's so easy to lose your remote, especially when it's so tiny like this. If you do lose your remote or don't want to get up to get it, you can use the Smartthings app on your phone to interact with your TV with a virtual remote. Or even more fun, use a Samsung Galaxy Watch like this Watch 6 Classic. It has a D-pad, channel, and volume control on this tiny screen, which is so much fun. Now, not only is the Samsung Galaxy Watch 6 Classic terrific for controlling a Samsung TV, but it's also great for staying connected to important notifications like texts and phone calls, and features that encourage you to be active and healthy. The Galaxy Watch 6 has various sensors and features that provide fitness tracking to gather performance insights such as duration, distance, and calorie calories burned during a workout or while traveling or throughout the day. I love using it while rowing because it can automatically detect and track it along with other popular activities. You can also manually track 90 additional exercises, which I find helpful when keeping track of my sets while lifting. Plus the comfortable fit, timeless classic watch look, and a nifty rotating bezel to help you navigate make it perfect to wear all day. When you pair the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro with the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic, the Samsung ecosystem really starts to flex its muscles. You can listen to music and even hear chimes and alerts for your workouts. They're also one of my top choices for sound quality, which makes it a perfect fit for the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic. And for Father's Day, you can get $80 off the Galaxy Watch 6 Classic and $60 off the Galaxy Buds 2 Pro through June 13th. So don't miss out on that deal. If you'd like to pick these up, go ahead and click the link in the description where you can get fast delivery or pick it up in the store. And thanks so much to Best Buy for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now, Smartthings isn't just on your phone or smartwatch, but also on the TV itself. This integration empowers you to access your various Smartthings compatible items on your TV, allowing you to control your lights, blinds, or whatever with a simple click of a button. You can really start to see how the Samsung ecosystem shows its value here. Inside the QN900D is Samsung's NQ8 AI Gen 3 processor, so moving around Samsung's Tizen OS is fast and smooth, with some neat features that allow for multi-view or video preview when you're on the home screen. Overall, it's what you would expect from a smart TV, but in a different spot or way than other operating systems. It's kind of like getting into a different car and needing to adjust to where the buttons or windshield wipers are. The only thing that I couldn't figure out was how to pin downloaded apps like Apple TV to the home screen. I have to go to the app page to access it, so that part could be more intuitive. Beyond that, the software is critical for the image you see on the QN900D, and what makes 8K on this TV make sense. You may not think it's worth it, but hear me out. First, as you know, there's a limited amount of 8K content. I looked around and tried to find some, and the most accessible place I could find some was on YouTube, which is not exactly the highest bitrate or quality. Thankfully, with their AI upscaling Pro technology, the QN900D has software that helps achieve an 8K type resolution from lower resolution sources. This software upscaling is critical because it means you can have an 8K-like experience on this display for a lot of content. But you're probably thinking, Brandon, that still doesn't explain why we need 8K, and you're right. But here's how to better understand it, and it all has to do with how your eyes perceive things. If you ever been to a concert or a sports game and seen those giant LED walls, you may have seen many that look high resolution to the point that you can't see any of the individual pixels. I've set up many of those displays at concerts and events myself. So here's a question. What resolution do you think those displays are? Write it in the comments and tell me if you get it right. And don't cheat. Well, the answer is that most have a custom resolution, but most are effectively about 1080p, and some go down to 720p or even lower, yet they somehow still look great. Surprising, right? So why is that the case? You probably already know, but you really haven't connected the dots. Does the branding Retina display ring a bell? Okay, well, hang on to that thought. There's a correlation between the size of the display, your distance from it, and its resolution. Since you're far away from the LED screens at those concerts and events, the importance of the resolution decreases, and that results in a higher looking resolution from where you're at. If you were to stand right next to the screen, it just wouldn't look great. The Las Vegas Sphere is another excellent example. It has a resolution of only 16K, which when you think about it, is not that high when the entire surface area of the display is 160,000 square feet. It looks fantastic in a high resolution from afar, but you can see all the pixels from even a handful of blocks away from it or while taking the monorail next to it. Remember Retina display? We've seen it in Apple iPhones, MacBook Pros, and more. Notice how an iPhone and a MacBook have different resolutions, yet they still have that Retina display look. The difference is a correlation between the size of the display, your distance from it in practical use, and in turn, what the resolution ends up being. And that's how they determine the resolution that's needed in order for you to not see the pixels. Does that all make sense now? So if resolution matters less when you're far away, the inverse is true, and that's where 8K comes into play. Oh wait, that rhymes. So I have the QN900D in my theater room. This room is about 14.5 feet by 17 feet. If you were to put 2 rows of theater seats in here, which I actually need help in determining what kind of seats to put in here, so give me suggestions in the comments. But when I pick up chairs and I put them in here, that first row is how far away from this 85-inch monolith? It's a mere 6 or 7 feet. At that distance, I can see pixels and artifacts from a 4K display, but on an 8K display, I can't, which means an 8K TV is a compelling choice. But resolution is one thing, the quality of image is another. another. Samsung has long been known for being amongst the best in AMOLED displays, but this is not an AMOLED display, it's a mini LED display, which has been a trend for TVs over the past year. Mini LED has pros and cons compared to AMOLED or OLED displays, which are present in this TV as well. Brightness levels are one of the most significant weaknesses of an OLED display and its varieties. It simply cannot get as bright, and it can run into issues if it tries to. Mini LED, however, can get quite bright, which makes it great if you put this TV in areas with a lot of light, like rooms with tons of windows or in your living room. Alternatively, OLED has a history of burn-in or a form of image retention. These issues can occur if you watch a lot of MSNBC or a sports game. The persistent stats bar and times can become burned into your display so that you can see a ghost image on it even if you're watching something else. There are a lot of methods and tools that are often employed to reduce the chances of this happening or its severity. Mini LED can get much brighter because it doesn't have to be concerned with those same issues, and that means it can really perform well in HDR. And HDR content is bright, which is fantastic and more realistic looking. So I know I'm in my theater room, but I have a professional production light at 100% right over here, and the fact that you can still see the image on this display easily and clearly is kind of incredible. There is some anti-reflection coating on the screen itself, which does help, but it's not as dramatic as the Samsung OLED S95D, which has a no glare display. So you can still see a bit of glare on this model over here, but it's still pretty decent. One of the great benefits of OLED panels is that every pixel that you see can be individually turned on and off. The result is a pretty insane contrast ratio, stellar inky blacks, and excellent color accuracy, vibrancy, and saturation. Mini LED is not OLED because it doesn't have the ability to turn on and off individual pixels, but instead it has an impact on a broader area of the display. In practice, contrast levels and blacks can still be quite good on the QN900D, but it all depends on how the software engine is processing and running things, as well as the difficulty of the image that's being displayed. Most of the time while watching regular content, I don't notice any blooming or halos around a bright area next to a dark area. You can certainly run a test to see that, but I really notice it most on letterbox black bars when watching something like Fallout in practical use. The bars themselves will sometimes activate and produce a bit of a hazy gray instead of a pure black bar, which I sometimes found surprising considering it's a black bar without something moving around inside, and I would just imagine that would be easier to handle. But overall, the image looks excellent, exciting, and vibrant, and the color is quite good, if not just a little extra saturated. I know a filmmaker mode is available to get a more accurate look. If you want to be more advanced and tune the image of this TV, you can easily do that if you have a supported Samsung Galaxy phone. There's a neat feature that allows you to use it to calibrate the image to make it more accurate, which I think is really cool, and I like that a lot. So should you get the Samsung QN900D? That depends on a few factors. Consider getting it if you need a bright screen and OLED is not cutting it. If you want the best contrast ratios and inky blacks, you shouldn't get it. Consider getting it if you're using a 4K TV and you're sitting close enough to notice the pixels and artifacts. If you want to avoid blooming artifacts, you shouldn't get it. If you watch a lot of sports or news on it, consider getting it to prevent OLED burn-in. And consider if you're in the Samsung Smartthings ecosystem and have Samsung soundbars, phones, smartwatches, and more. It just kind of meshes together really well. As for me, I'm fortunate enough to have a theater room with no windows in it, so the contrast and inky blacks matter far more to me in this case over brightness. So I prefer something other than the QN900D, like an OLED TV. If it is a good fit for you and you want one, please use the affiliate links in the description, pinned comment, or with the QR code here. It's a pretty fantastic TV that has an insane image, is massive and bright, is capable of working with and displaying tons of content, and has an incredibly sleek design. Let me know if you have any questions and I'd be happy to answer what I can in the comments. Thanks to Samsung for lending me this TV. I do not get to keep it. They did not sponsor this video and have no editorial control over this video. This video is only sponsored in part by Best Buy. Thanks for watching. This is Tech Today. Until next time.